Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. I hear archangels a-ringing them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. Hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Angel choir singing a-rocking in Bethlehem. An angel choir singing a-ringing them bells. Listen to their story, rocking in Bethlehem. I listen to their story, ringing them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. I hear archangels ringing them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. Hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Shepherds on the hillside are rocking in Bethlehem. The shepherds on the hillside are ringing them bells. Baby in a manger rocking in Bethlehem. A baby in a manger ringing them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. I hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. I hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Mother Mary praying, a-rocking in Bethlehem. Mother Mary praying, a-ringing them bells. Joseph filled with wonder, rocking in Bethlehem. Joseph filled with wonder, ringing them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. Oh, Mary, oh, Joseph, oh, Mary, ring them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. I hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. Hear archangels a-ringing them bells. I hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. Hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Hear archangels a-rocking in Bethlehem. Hear archangels a-ringing them bells. Yeah. There's a song in the air. There's a star in the sky. There's a mother's deep prayer, and the baby's low cry. And the star rains its fire while the beautiful sing. For the manger in Bethlehem cradles the King. There's a tumult of joy for the wonderful birth. For the virgin sweet boy is the Lord of the earth. And the star rains its fire while the beautiful sing. For the manger in Bethlehem cradles the King. We rejoice in the light, and we echo the song that comes down through the night from the heavenly throne. Aye, we shout to the lovely job. Well, you can't go anywhere. Next song. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Glory to the newborn King. Well, what you gonna call that pretty little baby? What you gonna call that pretty little baby? What you gonna call that pretty little baby? Glory be to the newborn King. Well, some call him David, I think I'll call him Emmanuel. Some call him David, I think I'll call him Emmanuel. Some call him David, I think I'll call him Emmanuel. Glory be to the newborn King. Well, the government will be upon his shoulders. The government will be upon his shoulders. The government shall be upon his shoulders. Glory be to the newborn King. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. The Virgin Mary had a baby boy. Glory be to the newborn King. Yeah, glory be to the newborn King. Oh, glory be to the newborn King. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? I'm gonna send thee one by one. Oh, one poor little baby born in a Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? I'm gonna send thee one by one poor little baby to both Paul and Silas, yeah, 3 for the Hebrew children, 4 for the poor that stood at the door, 5 for the gospel preachers, 6 for the 6 that never got fixed, 7 for the 7 that went to heaven, 8 for the 8 that stood at the gate, 9 for the 9 that dressed so fine, 10 for the 10 commandments, and 1 for a little baby born in a Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? I'm gonna send thee one by one for swaddling clothing, lying in a manger, Son of the Virgin Mary, hung to by the sheep, guarded by the shepherds, worshipped by the wise men. Yes, one poor little baby born in a Bethlehem. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? I'm not going to send thee one by one poor little baby born in a Bethlehem. He was born in a Bethlehem. Okay, how about a round of applause for Nick for helping me on the first song? And for Kayla for doing percussion on the bunch of songs.
'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn, 'twill be our delight, and by turning, we come round right. Going home, I am going home. Going home, never more to roam. Though the road's been so long, now I'm going home. Though the road's been so long, now I'm going home. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight.
That was pretty. I like that. I'm going to read to you from the Gospel according to Luke. This is in the first chapter, starting in the 57th birth. Now the time came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she brought forth a son, and her neighbors and her relatives heard this, how the Lord had displayed great mercy towards her, and they were rejoicing with her. And it came about that on the 8th day they came to circumcise the child. They were all going to call him Zacharias after his father, but his mother said, "No, his name shall be John." And they said, "There is no one among your relatives who is known as John." And so they made signs to his father as to what he wanted them to call him, and he asked for a tablet, and he wrote out as follows, "His name is John." Everyone was astonished. And all at once Zacharias opened his mouth. His tongue was loosed, and he began to speak in praise of God. And fear came on all those living around them, and all these matters were being talked about in all the hill country of Judea. And everyone who heard about it kept it in mind, saying, "What then will this child turn out to be? For the hand of the Lord is certainly with him." Okay, so this is one of those things where we just parachuted into a story. So I do need to kind of give you the previously in the Gospel according to Luke piece of this. So Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth, they were old. They were old. Elizabeth and Zacharias had never had kids. Of course, it was the beginning of the Common Era, so it was always the woman's fault. She was barren.
And so it was looked at that there was something wrong with her. And of course, everyone in the community was like, poor Zacharias, he's stuck with this woman who can't have children. Isn't that so sad? Why doesn't he divorce her and marry somebody worthy, i.e. capable of childbearing? But Luke has gone out of his way to let us know that both Zacharias and Elizabeth are really nice people. They're excellent, superb people. And so Zacharias happened to have been in the temple. He was doing his job as a priest, and he had gone into the Holy of Holies, or at least into the innermost part of the temple, to offer incense, and an angel appeared to him. And like all angels, the angel begins with these words, "Don't be afraid." Basically, it's "Don't be afraid. I didn't come to kill you. I came to bring you good news." They never say the part about killing, but that's what everyone thinks is going to happen. Because angels, if you read the Bible, they're scary. Read the descriptions of angels. None of them sound like, oh, really beautiful looking people with like piercing blue eyes, blonde hair, this glorious skin that's flawless, and these beautiful wings with feathers. They're described as, they're having 4 faces, and they've got, 6 wings, and it's really terrible sounding. So when the angel appears, the absolute consistent reaction throughout the Bible is, don't be afraid. I think the only exception is when the angel comes to see Mary, and the angel says, "Hail Mary, greetings Mary," and then goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, don't be afraid," because it's like the second thing. So Zacharias is like, and the angel says, "Nope, God has heard your prayer. Your wife is going to get pregnant. You're going to have a son. It's going to be John, is what you're going to name him. He's going to be a really important prophet. In fact, his job is to prepare the way for the coming Messiah." And Zacharias says, "Wow, this is pretty unbelievable." And never say that to an angel. And the angel says, "Fine, you don't believe it? Okay, then you don't get to say anything at all until the kid is born." And suddenly he's struck mute. He can't talk. So he comes out of the temple and they go, "Hey, Zacharias, what happened?" And he's like, and of course, what do you do when somebody's mute but they can hear perfectly well? You start sign language on them. Like they can't hear you. He can hear fine. And 9 months later, John is born. The Jewish custom is after a child is born, 8 days later is circumcision. I have a theory about why it's 8 days. Because if it's 8 days, that means that no matter what day you're born on, by the time you are circumcised, you have been alive for 1 full Sabbath. I think that's why it's 8 days. That's my personal theory. So they come to the circumcision, at least as Luke understands it, at the time that sort of corresponded to the naming ceremony as well. What are we going to name him? Let's call him Zacharias, like his dad, which is weird. That's not actually very common in the time of Jesus. Usually we'd go back a generation or two. They didn't really have juniors, so it's kind of odd that they suggested that. But Elizabeth, she already knows who this one is supposed to be. He says, no, his name is going to be John. You can't name him John. There's nobody named John in our family. You can't name him John. We're going to ask Zacharias. So what do? They, of course, try sign language. Can you imagine how frustrating that would be to be Zacharias and have people acting like you can't hear, when in fact the only problem is you can't speak? I mean, he's just like, something to write on, right? So they bring him something to write on, and he writes, his name is John. And then out comes the voice. Suddenly he's able to speak. And this becomes a sign for everybody. This moment where suddenly his voice is released becomes a sign that God is up to something. And now everyone's so excited. Oh, did you hear? Did you hear? John, oh my goodness, the Holy Spirit's with him. What is he going to be when he grows up? Oh my goodness, he's going to be a prophet. Sure enough, they were right. He became a prophet. He's kind of a wild guy. And we'll hear more about him in the Gospel of Luke, but he was a little wild. He was a wild one. But he was a prophet, made a big impression, not only religiously in the sense that he prepared for the coming of Jesus and really functions as kind of setting the stage for the coming of Messiah, but John was also kind of political. I know they say preachers shouldn't be political. John was. He thought the king was a problem. He criticized the king. The king. So this is historically accurate. The king could not resort to Twitter, so he just had him arrested and thrown in a dungeon. Eventually, there was a beheading, and that was the end of John's story. But what's interesting about it is that we know that there were disciples of John for many decades afterwards. John had a really profound effect, and even many of the early Christians were people who had been originally with John. And as the Christian movement spread outside of Judea, they kept running into people who were followers of John, and then they were being told, hey, guess what? John was the forerunner. Let us tell you about the Messiah. And so this is important. He was an important guy. So, what was he going to be when he grew up? Well, he was that. This question, though, has been haunting me a little bit. Because, and it might be haunting John now a little too, since John is now officially retired. Because one of the things that kind of happens to us is you grow up and you become whatever it is that you think you've become. And then you kind of do your life, and you're in your life, and at some point you find yourself going, okay, is this it? Have I become what I'm supposed to become? Am I there yet? And sometimes some people are like frustrated, like that hasn't happened. And for some people, they have that sense of, yeah, this was it. This is what I was called to. This is my purpose being fulfilled. I'm glad I'm here. This is how it was supposed to be. But even that changes. So I think about that because I have the value as a clergy of being a person who was called. I'm doing this job because I didn't have a choice. When God says, hey, I want you. Forget Uncle Sam. When God says, I want you, the answer is, okay. But now, in 6 months, I'm retiring. I was talking to somebody today. Are you going to preach? Are you going to do, be involved, like fill in or what? I don't know. And so it makes me wonder, what am I going to be when I grow up? Is it over now? I'm just going to sit on my laurels and think back about the good old days. I remember that time when I was preaching on Luke. Is that, reliving the glory? Looking back over old notes going, back then. Tweeting and getting on Facebook to remind people so they don't forget me. Is that going to be it? Or is there perhaps more work that God has in mind, another thing to which I am called, another purpose for which I am to move? Is it possible that there are more accomplishments to claim, more things to achieve? That's the question I ask for myself. But I have a feeling that, anytime you stop and take a breath and kind of look around your life and surveil, that you maybe find yourself asking a very similar question. Not always. Sometimes you know that where you are is where you need to be right now, but everything that we do is going to come to its kind of conclusion. And then what? Then what? What is that next thing to which we're being called? I actually think the question that is being asked at the birth of John, who is this guy going to grow up to be, is a question that we can ask at almost any time, because I'll be honest with you. I don't care where you are in the story of your life. I don't think God's done with you yet. I think there's still purpose, and I think there's still some really cool stuff yet to be done, yet to be attained, yet to be accomplished, yet to be claimed in your life and in the name of God. I don't think you're done. I hope that's true, because even when I retire, I hope I'm not done. That's my plan, is not to be done. I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to keep doing. I want stuff to still happen, and I want to feel like, you know what? I may not be pastoring a church, but I'm making a difference. And I want to be asking that question again in 10 years, 20 years. What am I going to be when I grow up? Can you find the prayer of response? Let's pray that together. The birth of a child is a moment full of dreams and possibilities. What will this child grow up to be? But as the years pass, an answer appears. Well, the years have passed by, and I look at my life and think, is this it? Is this all my life is about? Is it possible that I might yet become, that I might yet fulfill an unrealized possibility? Is it possible that there is more for me to learn, more ways to grow, more achievements and accomplishments to claim? And is it possible that through your Holy Spirit's work in me, I might yet attain to a greater purpose, a higher calling? Lord Jesus, what will I grow up to be? Amen.
There's a star in the east on Christmas morning. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. It will lead to the place where Jesus is born in. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. If you take good heed to the angel's words, rise up, shepherd, and follow. You'll forget your flocks, you'll forget your herds. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Take a look at the child the angels are singing. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. You will find that it's hope and peace he's bringing. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow, follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Follow the star of Bethlehem. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Rise up, shepherd, and follow.